Hello people of the world, and welcome to today's episode of Coffee Chats with Jax. If you have tuned in today, then congratulations. There you are, here I am, let's have a conversation. For today's episode, I wanted to talk to you guys about this book that I have been reading called Epic. Not our good friend the rapper Epic, but this book right here, Epic. Anyway, I just finished that book, and it is all about how we have been put into this grand love story. It was really cool to read because it taught me a lot about the character of God and the heart of God. And the biggest thing I think that I took from that book is that God wrote eternity on our hearts. I think that is just one of the most beautiful things that I've ever heard, and it makes a lot about the world make sense. Why is it that in every story we tell, it's always a battle about good versus evil? When you look at movies like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter, Finding Nemo, literally all the stories is good versus evil. And in the story, there's a hero that comes to save the day, and there's a villain, and there's victory, and our hearts want the good to win, and we're rooting for the good team. And why is it that in those stories the good wins, and there's a rescuer that we love, and there's pursuing, and there's a love story going on, and why do we want the good to win? The reason that story shadows into every single story that we tell is because God put that story in our hearts. We're in that story. We are in the greatest love story of all time. And when I hear that, it just kind of makes me like I don't really know what to say. My favorite example that book told was about the movie Titanic. And if any of you have seen Titanic, you might know what I'm talking about, but if not, maybe you can watch it later, maybe leave the room for a couple of the scenes. But in this movie, there's Jack and there's Rose, and Rose is like a slave to this ship. She calls it her slave ship, and she has this life where she has a lot of money, and she has a person that she has to be, and she's stuck being this type of fancy, high-class lady that she is a slave to, and so she wants to kill herself. She wants to jump off the boat, commit suicide. Jack sees her, our rescuer, our hero. He sees her and he loves her, and his heart wants her, and so he pursues and pursues and rescues her from this ship. He rescues her from her old life. Rose says that Jack saved her in all the ways that a person can be saved. He saved her from her old life, and then at the end of the movie, he gives his life for her. And I know that there's controversies that Jack could have fit on the door with Rose, but we're just gonna ignore that for the purpose of this video. Jack pursued Rose, Jack saved Rose, Jack gave his life for Rose, and Rose was free. Rose was free of her old life. Jack pursued Rose like Jesus pursues us. Jack saved Rose like Jesus saves us from ourselves, from that life like Rose had on the boat, where she was stuck being the person that she thought she had to be. She was a slave to that. Just like we're a slave to our old ways, our old habits, our old shame stories. We feel like we're a slave to that, just like Rose was, but Jack saved Rose just like Jesus has saved us. All we have to do is recognize that and notice that, because you guys, that story is written on our hearts for a reason. You want to know what the most beautiful part about that is that at the end of the Titanic movie, you see this really bright, shining room on the boat when Rose is imagining what could have been, and you see everyone's happy and everyone's cheering, and it looks like the real boat, but it's like more glorious and just bright and happy. And you see Rose walking down the aisle to get married to Jack because Jack's back to life, and everyone's happy and the boat's fine. You guys, that's the restoration that Jesus offers us. That's the redemption. You see that at the end of that movie. Then there's more stories like Harry Potter, where there's good versus evil. There's Star Wars, good versus evil, the rescuer, the villain. Why do we keep telling this story? Why do we love that love story? Why do we love the rescuer? It is because God put eternity on our hearts. In every story that we tell and that we love is our attempt to put in words and images to make the story that God wrote on our heart make sense. When we're expressing ourselves, when we're creating these love stories and these movies and these books, it's because that's what we know. That's what feels home to us, because it's on our heart. John Eldredge says in this book, something has been calling you all the days of your life. You've heard it on the wind, in the music you love, in the laughter, and in the tears, but most especially in the stories that have captured your heart. A hero won and his beloved, and a villain and his great battle to fight, a journey and a quest, an adventure. You guys, why do we love adventures so much? Why do we love to see winter turn to spring? Like, I'm starting to realize that God reveals himself in literally everything. When spring starts to come and winter goes away and you see that first little blossom, you guys, why does that happen? Why do the trees come back to life? Why do the flowers grow? Why does the dead stuff go and the new stuff come? That's our story, and I love our story, and we have the most amazing hero rescuer pursuing us because he loves us just like Jack loved Rose and pursued her. Just like all the great love stories go, they're just a little shadow to the greatest love story in the world that we are put into. We recognize that, and our souls crave that because we know that something's off. We know that something's not right. We know that there's something better that we're chasing after, and it's like humanity is broken. We live in a broken world. And I feel like every single person, whether they know this stuff or not, will admit that something's not right. And that's because we know what we're meant for. We know eternity. We try and put it into the books and put it into the movies because we love it. And you guys, we're in the greatest love story of all time. And once we recognize that, it's really exciting. We're in that adventure. Well, that's all I have to say for today, but I hope that you will have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode of Coffee Chats with Jax. If you liked what I had to say and want to continue talking further, we are going to be carrying this conversation on over on my Patreon page. You can get there by clicking on that box on the side of the screen that says Patreon, or you can click the link in the description box below that says Join My Family. That's where we're going to be sharing stories, asking questions, just continuing the conversation on further, and that is also where you can find out how to support me and get more involved in what I'm doing. So please click those links to find out more, and I will talk to you next time. Okay, love you guys.